I don't recall any part of my childhood without a pen in my hand or a paper or something creative. So the strategy is what you're going to do, and the mindset is how you think about what you're going to do, is how you think about your business towards building a brand. The long-term thinking. Disney is what it is because it thinks in decades. How fast-paced it is and how difficult it is for most of the entrepreneurial race to look up and try to see longer. Probably the second learning, which is storytelling is everything. And I always felt that it was broken because it was too fast. I learned how to first become a boss and then a leader, which is two different things. In order to pursue your dreams, you have to have a dream first. So if I recall correctly, there are more than 600 million entrepreneurs in the world. So imagine how many clients do we have ahead. So why shouldn't we worry about sharing and being part of it? Because actually we empower each other. So.
Welcome to episode 2 of the Leading Boldly podcast. We've got a very special guest with us today. Ezequiel's not just any branding expert, he's an artist. He's a visionary who transforms startup founders into branding champions. With an illustrious career that spans over 2 decades at none other than the Walt Disney Company, Ezequiel has been the force behind nurturing some of the most iconic brands we know and love today. Disney, Marvel, Star Wars, they're just a few. From launching blockbuster movies to orchestrating theme parks, TV channels, and everything in between, Ezequiel's journey is a masterclass in brand storytelling. What makes his story even more captivating for us is his love of art and his transition from the Walt Disney Company into building his own company. Here, he empowers startups with the knowledge and tools needed to craft legendary brands. Ezequiel's belief in the power of brand strategy as the key to unlocking a brand's full potential is something that really resonates with us here at Q Branch, and we're really excited to have him here. So let's dive in and uncover some of the stories behind the man and the legend. Ezequiel, welcome to the show.
Thanks. I'm overwhelmed by that intro. Sounds really elegant and too much, I guess. But I'm really happy to be here. The beginning of your podcast, and congrats for the launch of a business.
Thank you. So we first met on a global branders and I guess creative thinkers mastermind run by Matt Davies.
Mm-hmm.
How are you finding that?
Amazing. One of the most the best parts of it is introducing us to new people, to better people. I've always believed that surrounding myself with people that are better than me and more amazing and that I can admire is good for me. So I'm glad to meet you there and so many other friends and colleagues from the brandosphere.
One of the things I noticed as sort of not being in the branding world particularly was Matt's excitement every time the call ended. He'd come off just like, yeah, this was so good. I met this person and we talked about this. And it was really lovely to see that kind of fire and engagement that you get from a group. Because sometimes you can be in groups and come away thinking, oh, that was hard work. And I never get that feeling when you guys have been in the room.
Well, particularly in the world we live today, where we are all the whole day here, in a room with screens and sometimes alone, because we don't work with teams or we interact with faces in a particular app. That connecting with others and learning from different experiences, cultures, regions, different paths is amazing. And over the years, Matt and the group have been growing the community and introducing to new people. Some of them are book publishers, authors, sorry, and global speakers and agency owners. It's amazing how much talent is gathered every month. So yeah, I'm glad to be part of it.
Yeah.
I think a lot of, sorry, Matt, I think a lot of people can get tied up with the anxiety of, oh, but they're all branders, so they're going to steal from me, or there's going to be a sense of not sharing, and I always say in coaching world, we have to have other coaches to learn, to have mentors, to offload to, and all that. So I think it's really nice to have a group of people together who are doing the same thing and supporting each other.
I have two answers to that, or comments. One is, I would say that most of us are saying the same, in different ways, in different tones of voices, in different languages, from different sources. If you distill everything we preach and we evangelize about, it's pretty much the same. We use the same tools, we learn from the same people, we read the same books. So the only thing left is our opinions, if our personal experiences. So by sharing those with people that we like, we enrich each other's. So that's not there for the content per se, but actually for the experience.
Yeah.
And the other point is, if I recall correctly, there are more than 600 million entrepreneurs in the world. So imagine how many clients do we have ahead. So why shouldn't we worry about sharing and being part of it? Because actually we empower each other. So
Yeah. We completely agree. That's completely our ethos here too. So let's dive a little bit backwards. What did childhood look like for you? Was creativity always there?
yeah, I guess so. I'm from Argentina. If you didn't get the accent, I lived almost my whole life in Buenos Aires, the capital city. And yeah, I was always related to creativity. Since I was a kid, I was a guy drawing cartoons and caricatures from our teachers and our friends. So I always used, I guess, creativity and art to entertain others. Then in high school, I decided to be a little bit more serious about it. So I became a student to a very positioned painter. So I went there every 2 times a week. I took 2 buses after school to go to the house of this painter, and I spent hours copying an apple or a bottle, and then I decided to continue studies. So I studied comics and cartoons. I studied animation, and so I've been stuck in learning experiences and expanding my expertise. And when I was 16, I had my first design business. I didn't know how to design, but I don't know how I ended up doing this, but I got calls from a newspaper that they would dictate the words and the things that they wanted in their ad. I would take note, go to the copy shop, tell a guy with a PC and CorelDRAW with a book of fonts in that time. So I picked up the fonts, I chose the size and everything, and he would print it for me, and I would take it to the newspaper, and I would get a couple of bucks every ad. So that was my first, I would say, for my job. I got in love of graphic design. So then I decided, okay, this is something that I like. And so while I was growing up my, I would say my art side, I continued with graphic designs, and I studied graphic design at the University of Buenos Aires. One of the best experiences I had. I became a typography teacher at the same university ad honorem for over 10 years. I was able to engage with more than, I don't know, 3,000, 5,000 students over the years in different levels. That gave me passion for teaching. for sharing stories, for correcting mistakes as well. Yeah, and one thing took to the other, and then I became a freelance, and we can talk about later, well, my work journey. But yeah, I don't recall any part of my childhood without a pen in my hand or a paper or something creative.
What would you say to somebody who's maybe in the teenage years and they've got those drawings and the creativity, but they don't have the confidence in their abilities? What would you say to them to move forward?
Well, in order to pursue your dreams, you have to have a dream first, right? So definitely aspiring to pursue big things. I'm a proven example of, if you can dream it, you can do it. A freelance from Argentina, the bottom of the world, became an international executive at Disney, working with, hundreds of people. So yeah, doesn't matter where you are or who you are, you can do whatever you pursue, but you have to work hard. So that would be my advice.
It sounded like quite a sort of normal traditional existence. And so what is it like being a kid in Buenos Aires and a teenager and studying there? Because it feels like it would be quite different to here, but it sounds like it's similar.
Yeah, well, in that time, no internet, right? I am part of the generation that experienced the transition from paper to computers. And that was one of the things that captivated me. I was always connected to technology since I was a kid. My grandfather, bought a computer, in which I learned how to design with my hands, but with a computer. And actually, the name of my consultancy, Lalo, is a homage to my grandfather. I nicknamed him Lalo. So yeah, I used to go and buy books and magazines that came from the US or Europe, communication arts and print and all of these, fantastic magazines and books that they were a tiny window to the design world and history for us in Argentina, I guess everywhere. So when internet took center stage for all of us, that was a multiplier for us that were already in the media. So yeah, it was a lot of curiosity about who are these guys behind these books doing all of this? Where are them? Actually, I had the fantasy to go to New York and become a freelance over there. Everything changed when Disney called, and so I changed course for the first time.
Yeah, amazing. Tell us about that. How does a guy who's working in typography transition to a global exec within Disney?
I think it was a stacking situation. So I first learned that computers could design and do other things than just the hand. I told you I studied animation. My first job, after a formal job, was in an animation production. So I used to be the animator. I used to draw characters, ink those on computers, scan them, color them. I was also the motor boy as well, taking envelopes. So I did a lot of things there. But my first job was in computer animation in '94. A year before Toy Story was released, the first computer animation movie ever. So I was kind of in a cutting edge situation, even in Argentina. So I continued in my connection with technology and creativity. Then I worked with, in several industries, advertising, editorial. Then I got an internship in a computer design company. So they used to do hardware and software for those computers, where I learned how to design websites and CD-ROMs. Remember, this
Yeah.
CD you put in a computer, it was interactive. So that was '96. Very, very few people around were into websites. Nobody knew what that was. So it was all of kind of a slow evolution. And I freelanced for several companies as well as an illustrator and graphic designer. And then I freelanced for my father. He had an entertainment business who had Disney as a client. I did a couple of things for them, and Disney saw my work and they called me. And my first freelance job for Disney was drawing the characters for a supposed Carriots parade that was happening in Argentina. Didn't happen in Argentina, happened in Mexico later on, with, I don't know, 10 million people in the streets. It was incredible. So yeah, I did that freelance work for Disney, and then an opportunity came in and they offered me a stable job. And so I stopped everything I was doing and stayed there for 22 years.
What happens when you get a call? Hey, it's Disney, gonna come work for us?
I always tell this story. When I was little, I always wanted to be work for Disney. My dreams were about movies and character design and everything about the art, the Walt Disney, the traditional thing. But when I joined Disney, I joined in the theatrical business, in the movies business, in the marketing side. I was responsible for translating all of the marketing materials for a movie to Spanish, print in paper a lot of posters and stuff, and ship it to Latin American countries. That was my first job. And I asked, oh, where are the websites? And so we started assessing how websites for Disney would be, and to make it short, we launched the first Spanish-speaking websites of the history of Disney in Latin America. So by then I became kind of the digital guy that knew a little bit of, the only one in the group doing this. And when a lot of changes happened in the company, positive changes in LATAM, I was offered the internet job. Do whatever internet is. So I kind of dropped my creative side of my role, and I went full in to the internet and websites and online marketing. And for several years, we did millions of things that were the first time for Disney in that region, and sometimes for the world. We launched, of course, websites, marketing campaigns, first databases and promotions online, the first digital advertising operation, the first digital distribution of content. I traveled around Latin America closing deals with mobile operators to build a business out of ringtones and wallpapers, and telling them how to, because I learned from Disney, Japan, and Europe and the US, how to download those things. So we signed that, and so then I became the kind of a business guy for Disney. So that started to grow, and I became a head of business for digital, including development of products, apps, websites, virtual worlds, and a lot of things.
And would you say that sort of transition there was the point where you found brand as a calling to you, or did that come later?
Actually, before, when I started freelancing design, and I used to freelance for editorial companies and advertising agencies. I used to collect magazine ads. So I would get a magazine, I would cut the page, and I would have piles of ads. I didn't know exactly how that worked, but I liked those. So I would say that my interest for brand marketing, advertising, all of that started really, really early. And Disney provided me a huge platform to express myself, to create new things, to innovate, especially digital platform, because I was leading in that business, and I was kind of responsible to replicate whatever Disney had outside of the internet online, right? So creating, how questions that we may ask, how do we recreate this story on a website, what part of this could work interactively? What type of game should we create for this movie? And if possibilities were there, budget, technology. I remember working with Flash, a technology that was super interactive, animations, but at the time was very, very heavy for the bandwidth in Latin America. So very few people were able to experiment those type of innovations that we did. We did one big 3D kind of immersive experience with Flash for the movie Tarzan in '98 that flew around the world, I guess. It was a really nice experience.
Amazing. I love that story about the cutting out of magazines and things, because I came from not a graphical background, but I came from a theatre design background to start with. And one of the things I used to do really early in my career was, I would be assisting designers rather than doing the design myself to start with. And I kept a little notebook, which was just absolutely full of like, I really like this. They've done this and I really like it. I think it really works. And the opposite, I would write down the things I didn't like, or the things that I felt sort of didn't quite hit the mark. And it became a huge resource for me then, when I did become a designer. So
even if I consider myself an early adopter, because of either pleasure or work, I've been able to test many things on the very early stages and experiment, and feeling that my brain was way ahead of my hands, because I knew things that were going to happen because of being involved on the day-to-day. But the ability to capture, to catalyze opportunities with the options that they were at the moment, it was impossible. But we knew what was going to happen. However, I was all into technology and the future and everything. I've been always in love with paper and ink and the smell, the messy part. I make a lot of sketches and lists all the time. So because I'm old and I come from that part, and it's rooted in my soul.
Yeah, we are. We're the same generation. I completely get exactly what you're saying there.
Yes, pads and paper all over the place.
Yeah. So amazing 22 years at Disney. What would you say did you learn from that experience that you think all founders and sort of business leaders starting out now could learn from? I mean, I'm sure there's hundreds, but are there a few things that really stand out as, here's an experience that I think people need to know?
I start with the personal ones. I learned how to first become a boss and then a leader, which is two different things. But as a designer, I was an individual contributor, working at home, doing my stuff, no boss, no team. And then I started building teams. So I had to learn how to delegate and how to motivate people, and how to make them work better and helping them become the best version of themselves. So that was, for me, the most amazing part of the executive experience, assembling teams, surrounding myself with amazing talent, and nurturing them, making them grow, helping them grow. Because I always knew that if they grew, I would grow. So that was, and I had the possibility to lead international teams in LATAM and Europe. So that's probably my proudest. And so learning how to, companies don't exist. It's the people inside, the people that make stuff, they make decisions, they learn, they tell stories to each other. Those are sometimes end with a decision. So the human part of the work, even if you're working on technology and the cutting edge, whatever, the bond that you create with a team, and how you enable as a leader the work they do, and the motivation, and it's probably the most important part. And that's one of the things that I learned. Disney turned 100 years old last year. How do they get there? It's generations over generations, telling them stories, training themselves, doing things even better every single time. And very few people get to 20 years in the company. And like me, there are even 30 years or 40 years, but very, very, very few people. So most of the employees that Disney had, and right now they have 200,000, I don't know, 300,000. Most of them, the average is 5 years. So it's generations over generations that are connecting, that are sharing, that are collaborating, that are bonding in a way that make great things. So yeah, people connections are probably the most important learnings.
And I think that the connection in Disney with the characters and the movies, and particularly things like Marvel, my daughter is an absolutely mad Spider-Man fan. She has a Spider-Man cave at home, and she really connects with the emotion of Spider-Man and the stories and everything. Do you have a favorite? Because for her, it's only Spider-Man. Do you have?
I do. Are there?
Yeah. Mickey
Mouse, yeah. But I think the second biggest takeaway for me, and it's connected to your point, is storytelling. I learned even from as a fan before working at Disney. I was a fan of the storytelling part. How they created these amazing characters that they were engaging, and we couldn't stop looking at. And then behind the scenes, I learned how company did that and how many years it took to make an hour and a half movie, and how many people involves on movie making. It's incredible. And so that's probably the second learning, which is storytelling is everything.
Yeah.
Education, at work, in technology, in I don't know, in consulting, podcasting, right? It's how do you structure what you're saying in a way that is digestible, memorable, and creates this emotion. So characters, even if it's your favorite or not, is probably the best vehicle for a storytelling opportunity. So yeah, Mickey is my favorite.
Excellent. So the experience you've had with the brands and the characters and the storytelling that you have had is incredible. How do you then, in your own work now with startups, translate that experience of storytelling? How do you bring that experience to them at a startup at a much smaller level?
It's a lot of convincing.
Yeah.
Because I come from, and I had to adjust a lot and learn a lot of things from coming from Disney as an executive to working as a partner with entrepreneurs that, and the most important part was first the long-term thinking. Disney is what it is because it thinks in decades. And so every year we would have a 10-year plan, 5-year plan meeting early in the year to check first how financials are projected in the next 10 years and how the world is going to change in 10 years and what we need to do in the next 10 years to adjust that every single year. Even if last year you said 10 years, the next year you would reassess what you said and commit to the following year. So it was a constant long-term thinking that is not just saying, yeah, I want to do this in 10 years. Every single day, every single year, we will have plans, financials, objectives, goals, team meetings, discussions, strategies, all of it to drive this huge ship into the long term, right? So I came with that ship, and of course, I've been involved in the entrepreneurial ecosystem for years and the innovation space, and I knew how it was but it was different from seeing it from that side than now being part of it and working with the teams, how fast-paced it is and how difficult it is for most of the entrepreneurial race to look up and try to see longer. Sometimes it's because of necessity. You know, they have a very short-term runway. They have money for the next 6 months, so they can't think about the next 3-5 years. It's impossible because they're afraid and they are concerned that if they don't get the traction they need in the next 6 months, there's no business. So it was difficult for me to talk about vision and 10 years and purpose and all of these elastic ideas with people that were super focused on the day-to-day. So I had to adjust my methodologies and my conversation, my stories to open their minds and hearts to the idea of thinking long terms. Make sense?
Yeah, we've had similar experiences with clients where it's like, no, I need it all now, because if I don't get it now, there is no 10 years. And it's that of how it helps.
And exactly. And with that mentality, I went against the current?
Yeah.
Because one of the things that I see, I've been seeing it for decades, is that in the branding world, and I'm going to generalize, I know that this is not the case for many I know, but in general, there are millions of companies trying to sell branding, marketing, advertising, whatever it is. Most of this industry and the space is organized to sell the stuff, the tangible thing, the design, the production, the video, the platform, the tools, and so the strategy part is a 2-hour session or 2 days workshop or a questionnaire online that they need to fill in order to get to the real part, which is the tangible one, right? That's the good stuff, because that's kind of what justifies what we do later, right? And I always felt that it was broken because it was too fast. And of course, most of the people make the money on that part, so they need to jump into this. So I developed a process. I focus on strategy, and what a lot of people do in 2 hours or 2 days, I do it in 4 months. So I slowed down that for the people that want to listen. It's not for everyone, because of course this is fast-paced world that we live in. There's no patience, and a lot of entrepreneurs that don't have the time or the mind space to spend 4 months thinking about or developing and co-creating the strategy and aligning everything, and a lot of the things that we can talk later. So I kind of going kind of the opposite to this velocity that we live in. I force pause, in between the sessions as well, that I can share later if you
That's
want.
really, that's really interesting. I mean, I see you talk a lot through socials, LinkedIn particularly, about the concept of being intentional, and you seeing that as a real superpower with what you're doing with people. I agree. I'm on the same wavelength there. But for our listeners, can you just explain what you mean by being intentional and the power that it has?
Absolutely, because I love this part. So the focus of my work is based on 2 things: the brand strategy that you need, that informs everything you do with your business, and particularly your brand, your marketing, and everything, and also the brand mindset, the mentality you have. And I believe these 2 things need to be together, otherwise it's not going to work. So the brand strategy is a set of decisions. We know what strategy is, and every single branding podcast talk about definitions and everything, but it's basically a set of decisions that you set that are going to define your intention to win, right? What are you going to do to be different, to win in a market, to stand out, whatever you want to call it? But I believe that you need the mentality to make this work. Otherwise, it's just a paper in a drawer or in a folder, right? And I always explain this as the hardware and the software. So when you buy a computer, you keep it for 3 to 5 years. You don't change your computer every month or every 6 months, right? That's your strategy. You're going to keep it for years. But then you update your software every week. You install new things. Because you need this hardware to perform better. You test new things. You like Notion. You don't like Notion. You go to Excel. You don't like Excel. You go to Notes, right? You change the way you approach your usage, right? I think I touched a nerve there.
Oh yeah, I tried all of them.
Okay. So the strategy is what you're going to do, and the mindset is how you think about what you're going to do, is how you think about your business towards building a brand, right? The only way for you to shift your mindset to actually adjust to this is with time. You can't change your mindset in 1 hour or 2 hours or even 2 days or a Monday to Friday Tim Robbins style in a hotel room workshopping, because the next Monday you're back at it and you forget half of the things you did intentionally, with the intensity of a workshop. And so that's why I developed this process that takes 4 months, 5 months, 16, 18 weeks. And I do one session per week for 2 hours. So I create an in-between space, so people can digest and can macerate the ideas, and it's not disrupting to the day-to-day operations, right? So I believe that most of particularly in technology, most startups are in the action mode, right? They're doing, and sometimes they don't get the results they expect. 99% of the startups fail. That's what people say, and we all believe it. So if we continue operating the way we continue to operate, we are never going to change to 97% instead of 99, right? So we need to do something different. I believe that is slowing down a little bit and using the brains a little bit more than the muscle. So that's why I provide this pause on the process. And so the intention part is a strategy. If you have a strategy and you have the mindset to do this is going to direct your intentions. And because you have the right intentions and you know what you want to do, the actions are going to be the right actions. And if you provide the right actions with the right mindset, you're going to get the results you want, which, by the way, are going to inform your mindset again, because if you get good results, you're going to get the validation you need to continue doing the right things.
Yeah.
So I'm not a coach. I don't coach people, although I feel coachy, but I'm not. I like teaching, but I am a consultant. I hear your problems and I work with you on the solutions. I don't do it for you. So yeah, kind of. I don't know if I explained it well, but that's the drive,
You explained it perfectly, and it completely resonates with us. I mean, the reason that we both went into business together was because I was doing the strategy work with people, but they couldn't follow through on it. So Jenny is the half of the business that deals with the mindset. So we're completely on the same wavelength.
And it's something we've done for ourselves. We've sort of taken a few months out to do the process and the strategy process with other people as well. And we get lots of questions, and I sometimes have to check myself in with Matt, because people want it for us now. They're like, so what's happening? And they want us all to be quick. And we literally launched 3 weeks ago after months of processing. And so people want it all to be really speedy. And we've learned that that's not how it works. You've got to take that step back and go, well, what's the right way, not just any old busy way.
Yeah, and I think that we bought a lot of success stories, which are very few. And for several years, the successful people told us the story of about hustle, about working on the weekends, about this doing and not stopping, and growth by any means, and this financial pressure that they put. So a lot of young entrepreneurs or first-time entrepreneurs, thought that that's the only way to succeed, because these few people that got to unicorn level kill them, their minds into this. And if you hear a lot of entrepreneurs, they're all depressed because even they have millions of dollars, they feel lost because they didn't experience this in a good way. So I am inviting a lot of people, maybe your listeners, to think different. Why not going slow? Why don't we enjoy the journey and not being desperate about traction, a lot of that? And why don't we get the investors that support that slow growth, that support us making good business, healthy relationships, even if it's B2B, making the connections with these clients. There are many of them, instead of pushing entrepreneurs to go fast and make money and otherwise go away, right? So
Yeah.
I believe that side of the story needs to be retold, and I'm here to help.
I mean, how many times you see on Facebook or any social media platform where it says, make 10K in 6 weeks, 10K months in 6 weeks. You follow this process exactly to the letter, and you're going to have millions of pounds coming in within about 6 to 8 weeks. And everybody goes, yeah, I'm going to sign up for all of that stuff. And then they come away going, oh, well, that didn't work. I don't have my 10K months in 6 weeks. And then people get upset about it. And those people putting that stuff out there are leaders, and they think they're being bold because they're putting that bold leadership forward. But actually, there's a lot of people left in their wake that they just go, oh, well, made my millions.
Yeah, and it's not always about the money, it's about the relationships, because we tend to say that success comes from customer choice. People choosing your business and putting the money, even if it's 99 cents per month. They're choosing you. So you need to create this relationship with your whatever relationship means for each of the businesses that are listening. But creating this demand in a healthy way, so they stay, so they feel that there's value for them. And the same thing with the employees. You build a culture that people believe that they can be part of this and grow together and stay for years, because that's the way you keep the knowledge. If people stay, and or pass it along over the years, but really creating these human connections, not in the romantic way, but in the real way, even if it's people outside or inside, and taking the time that deserves to develop, right? Instead of just focusing on the product growth, sales, numbers, and if not, kill it and continue doing something else.
Yeah, it makes sense. It makes sense. So would you say, I think you would, but I'm going to ask the question. As part of that, do you think it's important that the purpose and values of the people within the business are echoed in the business and the brand? Do you think that that's a vital connection?
Yes. I just gave a talk about purpose last week in Mexico, in a magical place. That it was a perfect place with the perfect people in the right moment. And I'm completely convinced that there's a magical thing, and that makes teams survive and then thrive, and companies being relevant all the time, and teams outperforming others all the time. And I believe there's a drive, some energy behind what these people do, which is something that keeps the flame on, and it's an engine that is intangible, but it's somewhere, and I call it purpose. Now, purpose doesn't necessarily mean that you want to save the planet, because there are tons of research and articles and books and many very important people tell us that there are many ways to measure impact. That is, one is sustainability related to the environmental aspects, but there's also sustainability related to social and human aspects, or even profit. Making profit with purpose is making money. Nobody's telling you that purpose doesn't mean making money. That doesn't mean that you need to advertise around your purpose. But yeah, purpose for me is what drives a company towards long-term success if you manage it the right way. And I believe that means that I have a way to articulate a purpose, vision, and mission, and I help entrepreneurs do it the right way, because sometimes people confuse. Okay, they write my vision is, and I hear a purpose, or they say my vision is, and when what they say sounds like a mission. So I didn't invent it, but I adopted this articulation that helped me organize this, which is the purpose is the reason why the company exists. It's never going to change. It's not about money. It feels like a big impact or contribution you want, or a big change in the world that you want to create. And it feels like a direction. It's a direction towards where we're going. The vision is the destination that we are aiming to. It feels tangible. It's aspirational. It means it's big, difficult to achieve, but measurable. It has to, of course, do with the business, the money, and it could be adapted in the future. I'm not saying that it's never going to change. And the mission is what you're going to do and commit to achieve that vision. So if purpose is the direction and vision is the destination, maybe mission is the map. What are you going to, where do you need to go, and what do you need to achieve in order to achieve this? Now, I articulate it in a way that it bounces back. So if you do the right things every single day, and you commit and you perform and you achieve all of your goals and everything, you're going to be able to get to the destination and achieve your vision. If you achieve your vision, that means that you moved in the right direction towards your purpose. So it's a bounce. I call it the bounce effect, because if you articulate this way, it's going to be very clear which one it is. But there are companies that have a purpose and then goals, or a mission that sounds a little bit purposey, and it's fine. I mean, that's the way I like it. So imagine a pyramid, right? You have the purpose, the vision, and mission, and then you have the goals and priorities. There's a pyramid called the hierarchy of purpose, which provide this, right? The goals and priorities you have in order to achieve this. Then you have the people and the projects that you are going to focus on and gather towards those goals, and then the objectives and the performance indicators that are going to tell you that these people and these projects are good, and they are allowing you to commit to your goals and your priorities. The less priorities you have, the faster you go towards your vision. So I don't know, it's a long technical answer to if I believe or not on the purpose, but that means, yeah, I believe so. Yeah.
No, that's great. That was an absolute masterclass in purpose, Ezequiel. So thank you very much. That's really great to hear. Thank you for sharing. So looking at purpose, then, what excites Ezequiel about the future?
Good question.
It's a big one.
I've been always aware of what was coming on technology. Since I was a kid, I was curious about the developments. When the first computers came in, I was, what else can we do apart from playing games? And when internet came in, what else can we do instead of email? So I was always pursuing new things, and I kind of it's a strong word, but I was kind of an evangelist
Mhm.
within the company and in the region about what comes ahead, the next phones that they were supposed to come, and I don't know. I am extremely excited about artificial intelligence and how this blew in our hands, and the pace of things is
Mhm.
incredible. So if we are where we are right now in the world of brands, communication, entertainment, productivity, education, it's mind-blowing to think about what comes ahead in the next 5 years.
Mhm.
And I'm not afraid at all.
What would you
At
say
all.
to the listeners who are afraid? Because we hear a lot of fear around AI.
Don't be. I think the more you learn about it, the more you understand what can you do about this. Of course, I've been reading about this for years, so I've been incorporating the idea that this is inevitable. So I've been making my mind that whether you join it or you update or die, that's kind of a strong sentence. But I believe the faster you adopt this, the better. Doctors are going to make their work. I met with an entrepreneur from Kenya 2 weeks ago. He developed an app that uses the camera of the phone. So they put the camera on top of the microscope so they can detect malaria faster than the human eye. And in a very difficult place like Kenya. So I'm continuously mind blown about the possibilities, and people in the bottom of the world are finding ways to use it in favor to humanity that it's impossible to be afraid. Apart from the venture capital, this take my money, whatever it is, artificial intelligence that is happening. Companies that are pre-revenue don't have a product, but they get trillions of dollars already because people believe in the opportunity. So I believe in that. I believe that the blockchain and the Web3 promise is going to deliver in a couple of years. We failed 2 years ago because I don't know, we were in the middle of a pandemic, maybe not the antennas that we needed in that time. But I believe that it's going to stay for good, and it's going to change everything, democratizing. I hate that word, but it's going to decentralize a lot of the things that are centralized right now. So I believe in that. And I'm excited about what's going to happen. It's all about technology, but I believe that creativity and art is going to be reinvented and amplified by technology in ways that we cannot even comprehend. So yeah, I'm pretty optimistic.
I think a sort of overriding theme is that throughout your life, really, creativity and technology have sat really side by side, if not completely integrated. How do you think that there's a balance to find, or have you just always naturally known the balance internally without thinking about it?
Yeah, you're right. Actually, I have a slide of my whole life told through creativity and technology at the same pace. And I don't consider myself a technologist, but I've been I led technology teams for many, many years. So I believe I am part of it. As an artist, I use my hands. I do very complicated things with my hands. If you look at my work on Instagram, you're going to think I'm crazy. But you are going to also say that I have a lot of patience because I do very intricate, mesmerizing scenes that take many, many, many hours for me to create. Now, one
Go
day,
look at that now. I'm like, oh, let's go see.
one day, artificial intelligence is going to do what I do in 10 seconds. And I don't want to get there because it's going to take away the journey for me. For me, it's not the finish art,
Mhm.
which is obviously what we think we need to do, but it's that sanctuary that I go when I spend hours, days in one single piece. So as an artist, I'm kind of reluctant. I don't know, concerned, reluctant. I don't know which one is the word, but really thinking about this. Is this going to steal my process because it's going to be done like this, which I really enjoy. The taking time, making mistakes. So, but I'm going to embrace it anyways because
Mm.
I'm probably going to find new ways of doing new things.
Is
Um,
the art how you relax? Is that through that process? Is that where you find peace and
you could,
relaxation?
yeah, you could say so. I don't know. People paint mandalas and other people sew things. I don't know. I paint, I draw since I have memory and it gets me to a place that nothing else takes me.
And I
Uh,
think that that's something that AI will never take away because humans need that physical creativity. There are still the people that go and weave willow baskets by hand when a
yeah,
machine
but
could make them a
uh-huh.
basket. So
But let
I
me tell you one thing.
think
Um, I most of my time right now I'm drawing on an iPad. I'm doing exactly the same things that I used to do in paper and all of those markers that you see here in an iPad. And I found my way to recreate my trace and my style in a very digital way. And I wouldn't have thought about this 10 years ago. I would say, no way, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to use a pencil, an Apple iPad, whatever it is, because I believe in the paper. I told you I love inking and getting dirty, but I embraced it, and the results are similar. So maybe I find ways to do millions of these at the same time, and I find a new way of expressing. Right? Who knows?
Mm.
it's about having choice as well, isn't it? You can choose to do the long route and have the journey, or you can choose to do it for a purpose.
Yeah. So whatever, even if you're a graphic designer or a strategist or a video editor or a copywriter or whoever you are and whatever you do, the faster you embrace this, the better for you because you're going to understand the extent towards to which these tools can take your talent, your expertise, and you're probably going to find ways to actually make money out of that extension. I've seen copywriters that are now was the title that they used, like AI copywriting trainers. So they
Mhm.
train AI to, because it's not perfect, right? But they are using the tools and expanding the way they can write and do things, but with the human aspect in mind, the emotion, the spontaneity, the creativity, the mistakes, there are a lot of things that still technology didn't get yet. Um, so I wouldn't be afraid. I would be embracing it as fast as you can, or else.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. So we've looked at the future. Let's just, and we've looked at the past a bit, but just have a look back once more. Is there anything on your journey that you'd change,
I would change or changed.
which you would change with hindsight, looking back?
Now, of course, I'm aware of the mistakes I made and the difficult situations. I didn't have a happy, sorry, an easy path. When I explain it, it sounds magical and simple, but it's not easy. So I would definitely, I learned from those towards the decisions I make every day. But I wouldn't change anything at all, at all. No, no, no. I wouldn't be where I am, or I would do what I do and have a family and all my life right now. But I did change many, many times. I had many reinventions. I feel sometimes I feel like Schwarzenegger, the actor, like was a physical artist, performer, and then he was an actor, and then he was a politician. Now he's back. So he had many lives, many professions, and I believe I connect with that. I did many things in my life. I was a creator and a freelance contributor. Then I became a marketeer at Disney. Then I like an executive in the world of digital, with things changing every 6 months for us. And then I had to reinvent myself again out of the corporate life towards a consultancy, and being again an individual contributor to people around the world is incredible. I can believe it. And I always thought that I would be back on entrepreneurship and related to technology. I'm doing both. But I wouldn't have pictured that future as it is right now. And I'm glad.
Mm. Yeah, I really resonate with that myself. I think I've had many Schwarzenegger lives too. And it's
But going back to being Argentinian and South American and being so far away from the world, where things happen, right? And I studied art, I studied design, and now living in Europe, I live in Madrid, and living in Europe, being close to where things happen, walking on the streets of Florence or Paris or London, where artists that I admire or designers that I love live or lived. For me, it's magical. It energizes me to be here and connect with so many talents and legacy. It's amazing.
And it's important, I think, to know what energizes you. And it's something I talk about with my clients a lot, is what does energize you and what drains you. And let's do more of the energizing stuff and less of the draining stuff.
Well, values, company values or brand values is, for me, is the fuel, the energy that takes you through that map and towards that destination. I believe if you are good at creating and drafting and embedding those values into the company you are creating or even your life, you are going to be energized all the time. I always advise that don't do this just for filling the slide on values to check the box on, okay, we have 3 values, 5 values. Move on, right? And nobody knows, how many companies do you know that they don't remember their own values or principles, and they don't live through it, or they don't incorporate this into the day-to-day. I always recommend maybe creating a scorecard or something, so you test your values through performance reviews or interviews with candidates or employees, that make them a reality, and assess if you are living through those principles in the day-to-day, not just once a year in the yearly review. Just really make it a domestic thing, So yeah, that's the energy that you need to move forward. And I don't know if I feel old when I say these things, but a lot of entrepreneurs, young and people, don't have the experience. They never had a corporate job, so they haven't had the chance to learn from companies that have been doing this for decades. Like it or not, these companies have the experience, and they've been growing this idea of nurturing a culture and building human connections through the same principles and being repetitive, year over year on the same things without getting bored about what they say over the years, which creates the consistency and the pace towards embracing it long term. So I always give examples of companies that feel corporations and entrepreneurs don't relate to that, because, oh no, but I'm a startup, I'm a small company, and this is a huge juggernaut international company. Yeah, but they were a startup one day, and you can learn from what they did in order to plan your future, right? Even if you're not trying to get where they are,
Mm.
but really building the culture because it's your legacy. I believe brands are the legacy that defines entrepreneurs.
Mm. Yeah, great. So our sort of listeners and watchers are founders and they're leaders in small to medium businesses. And you've got a huge wealth of many years experience. If you could choose, and this is a hard one, I don't know how I would answer this one, but this is going to be a regular question for our guests. And it's, if you could choose one book, one piece of music, and one tool to share with a young business that you think would make a profound impact on their journey, what would they be?
I can't choose one book. Makes it really hard. And I know many authors from the books that I always recommend. I don't want them to be.
Oh, who are you going to offend?
No, don't get offended if I don't mention your book. But you've seen me recommend a lot of books on LinkedIn, and you can, but I believe an author that is well in demand right now, which is Daniel Priestley from the UK. I believe he's from the UK or in UK. Most of his books are really on point for what it is to be an entrepreneur right now, to building a business, to being oversubscribed, as one of the books is, to being an influence person, as one of the books is. His enterprises and the projects he's in are super fantastic. So I would recommend an author, not a book.
Yeah, that's really good, and I agree, and really interesting, because actually when we finish this recording, Jenny and I are going to a Daniel Priestley workshop. So
He's on my Audible at the moment.
Well, since we recommended his books and you are going to the workshop, maybe he can become a sponsor of your podcast.
Absolutely.
So, use this as a pitch,
Yes.
right? So what was the second one? So
music. How big a part has music played for you?
Well, my dad is a musician, a singer-songwriter from the 70s. He was very famous in Latam. So I grew up with music studios and recording studios and tours and pretty much into the industry. So I can't perceive life without it. I work all the time with music. I love a lot of music, but particularly electronic. I don't know why, but I ended up in the electronic music stuff. I think I need the energy, the electricity part of it, and it's technology driven, so maybe it's because of that. So I like that, but I wouldn't say that this is recommended for entrepreneurs. I don't know. That's what I like.
Yeah. That's good. And again, it's a hard one, but one tool, if they could only use one tool, one process, one framework, what would you recommend?
A tool, I would say that the best tool, the most scarce tool we have, which is time. Use time wisely, but trust in time as well. You're not in a hurry. If you can design a company that is that works better with time, that can leverage time as a driver, like wine, it gets better with time, it ages well, these type of companies. And I know many entrepreneurs that have been running their own companies for 18 years, 20 years. They are healthy, profitable, sustainable businesses that are not fancy, that maybe sound boring, but they have a hell of a life and a hell of a team and great brands, and they do everything the books say you should do, but they are not fancy unicorns with a rainbow around them, with huge funds behind. They just are good entrepreneurs that make money for and make impact. So, but they are particularly embracing time in their favor. So I would say that's the best tool you have.
Yeah, I think that's fantastic. Yeah. So how can we reach you, Ezequiel? How can who do you like to work with?
So currently I work with technology entrepreneurs. In terms of the startup world, early stage to Series A, B, where I don't work with corporations, although you could argue that I know corporations, but I like the idea of shaping the entrepreneur, like Play-Doh. I've seen them make decisions in front of me while we were having a conversation, and they click, they have a breakthrough, and they take the phone and say, let's change this. I'll tell you later, but let's change it. Stop what you're doing, right? That immediacy, I love it. I got addicted to the spontaneity and flexibility of early stage entrepreneurs that have the world ahead, and they are not forced by structures to make decisions. So that's the sweet spot that I like to work with. Yeah, that's it. I'm everywhere. I'm in every platform you can reach out. LinkedIn. I'm mostly active on LinkedIn, posting almost every day. That's the way I find to think better or more. I have to post something, so I think about it and I share it. So you can reach out there.
Yeah, and we'll put a link to your profile in the show notes.
Thanks. That's awesome.
And it's been, a real pleasure, Ezequiel, a real treat for us to just spend this time with you, just chatting and getting to know you better and your story. It's amazing. It's, we're both us and you big believers in stories, and there's nothing that we love more than, spending some time swapping stories with people like you. So thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks. And as I said before, I see how you're enjoying the launch and growth of your new business. I see the smiles of you working together. So hopefully, if there's anything I can help or the audience can do to help, just shout out and we'll be there for you.
Well, the audience can like and subscribe to the podcast. That really helps.
Yeah, it certainly does. So that's episode 2, guys. Thank you very much for joining us, and thank you again, Ezequiel, for being an amazing guest.
And remember to be bold. And if you can't be bold, give us a call.
Quick one before you go. If you want to grab a free PDF download copy of my new book, Being Bold, How to Use Brand and Human Transformation to Skyrocket Your Growth, just drop into the show notes where I'll put a link to your free copy.